Hey guys, welcome to chapter 3 of the Big Girl School Book Club. If you're just joining us, we are studying Picture Perfect Practice by Roberto Valenzuela, and we're on chapter 3. We are going through one chapter every 2 weeks. So if you're just joining us, you can go on IGTV or YouTube and you can see the previous week's videos. But this week is a very short chapter. There's 4 pages. Most of it is pictures, and one of the pages is the assignment. So I'm going to walk through kind of the overarching principles for parallel lines. That's chapter 3. I'm going to show you some parallel lines in my work, and then I shot a little iPhone video to explain the assignment a little bit better. So let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, so I went through some of my images and I looked for some strong parallel lines. And I wanted to walk you through kind of how I use these. So let's start with this swim picture. I love this picture. I also added this to the week of contrast because I love the little boys back here and then the older boy right here. But this week, let's talk about parallel lines. So naturally, the swim lanes dividers create natural parallel lines. So one of the first thing that's really important is that those lines are straight. So that's a big thing. You can see I cropped in on this photo to bring a little more focus on my subject. So I brought him into the rule of thirds. I eliminated this guy because he really didn't have anything to do with the photo. And then I also placed my little boys up here in the upper third of the frame. So one of the big themes of this chapter is ensuring that your horizontal lines are straight. So it would be a very different picture if I did this. Okay, that might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but I've seen a lot of people just go out and snap photos, and let's just make it even a little bit off. It just kind of throws it off. It makes it feel like the little boys are sliding to the right. So I'm going to go ahead on my history and I'm going to put it right back to where it was before. But these strong parallel lines all throughout the photo, all the way through. It adds layers, it adds depth, and it adds a lot of visual interest to the photo. Now this is an iPhone photo that I took from the train in London, and here we've got a lot of different parallel lines. So this is a building outside that's got a lot of horizontal and vertical lines. We've got the vertical lines of the building that's reflecting, and we've got the parallel lines of the train itself. So I just thought this was sort of an interesting picture, and one that I took just snapping it out the window of my iPhone. And then I did do a few adjustments in Lightroom. I fixed my verticals and I did an automatic upright fix to make sure everything was level. Now here's an interesting photo because I think it breaks the rules, but I think it still works. You can give me your opinion whether you agree or not. We've got very strong parallel lines of the steps, and our eye knows that those steps are straight, but it isn't necessarily even. I'm taking it at an angle and my daughter's running up the stairs. So I still feel like it's a really strong picture. The composition's really good. You can tell what she's doing in the upper left corner. But even though the parallel lines aren't perfectly parallel, he does show in the chapter that, it's not that you can't have a crooked horizontal line. Just make sure that it's done with purpose and not by accident. So when you're posting a sunset picture, you would never want the sun to feel like it's sliding down. But there are times when you can use parallel lines that aren't perfectly level either way. And I think this particular picture is one of those. Now here's a picture. My daughter popped her head out the door, and the door opening creates a parallel line which also frames her. So framing is another chapter. You're going to see a lot of the themes in the book overlap. So this could be geometry. You can see the rectangle. You can see geometry in framing, which was chapter 1. But you also see a strong vertical line here that's framing the subject and bringing all the attention to her. This is one of my favorite pictures. We were in a parking garage and we were taking some cool fashion photos, and I love the lines of the steps. And now what I did was I made sure that she sat low enough on the steps, because above here you could actually see the top of the steps, and I didn't want that to distract from the top of her head. So she sat low on the steps. I backed up and I got down low, and then I took the photo so that all the parallel lines were even. And then I made sure when I cropped it, you can see the crop here, I cropped off all of this over on the right because that would make it unbalanced, which was chapter 2. And then I made sure that all the lines were perfectly parallel so that there wasn't anything distracting, because I think if we had crooked lines behind her, it would be very distracting, and I want all focus on her outfit, and her beautiful face. Now here's another photo I took of my daughter. We were out in Colorado, and we were at my brother's house, and she was doing some homework over the weekend, and I was down coming up the steps, and I looked up and I looked into the bedroom, and I saw her studying, and there was beautiful light on her face. It had a really nice background. You can see the shiplap in the back, the distressed wood. And then these are the spindles on the stairs. And when I looked through, they framed her perfectly, and I think it added a little bit of visual interest to the frame. Instead of just taking a picture through the doorway, it's kind of like I'm peeking in. I'm observing a quiet moment without disturbing her. And then I used a shallow depth of field, which blurs out the spindles. So I can see them there. They create a shape. They create a parallel line, but they aren't distracting. They kind of fade away. So again, the geometry chapter and the parallel lines chapter are really overlapping, because we've got rectangles here, we've got rectangles here, we've got the overall rectangle of the doorway, we've got parallel lines of the mattress. So I just really love this photo because I just feel like I'm observing her without disturbing her. I'm kind of away from the frame. It feels more candid. Now, if you're a part of our Facebook group, I did a quick bonus tutorial on this particular picture, because the way that it started and the way that it ended were a little bit different. I'll show you a before and after, but if you want the full tutorial, go ahead and join our Facebook group, the Big Girl School Community. And this was a bonus Lightroom video where I showed you the lens correction and the transform tool. But I'll just go ahead and I'll show you the before. See how the parallel lines are crooked, the perspective is going in, so these lines are not perfectly parallel. These lines are not perfectly straight. We've got this over here that's a little bit distracting, so it's a cool photo, but it feels more like a snapshot. When I come in here and I apply the transform and I apply the lens corrections, it straightens everything out. It makes a perfect grid. It makes my vertical lines vertical, my horizontal lines level, and it feels much more pleasing to the eye. It feels more well thought out, and it feels more like a composed photograph versus just kind of looking up and taking a snapshot before. That was the last one I had. This I found, I took this in 2007, so I was just really starting out. This is before I really ever took my first online class. This was with my first camera. But I noticed I had peeked out. I used to work full-time, and this is from my office in the summer, and I was peeking out and looking at the girls playing in the driveway. And again, the strong parallel lines of the window blinds from my office. I'm kind of observing a moment that I'm not a part of from my office. The triangle kind of goes around them, so we go back to geometry. And this is just when my girls were little, and I'm so glad that I took it. But it's kind of like, I wonder what they're doing out there. I wish I could go out there and be with them, but I have to be in here and work. So that was fun. That was some of my earlier days of photography when I was still learning and exploring. But I think it was very effective back then, even if I didn't know about parallel lines, even if I didn't know exactly what I was doing. So let me know if you have any questions. This video will be posted in IGTV, and it will be posted on YouTube, as well as previous chapters. So if you're just jumping in, again, you're never behind. Just grab the book. The link is in my bio on Instagram. It's also on my blog post, and it's Picture Perfect Practice by Roberto Valenzuela, and we'll be doing one chapter every 2 weeks. And I look forward to seeing your photos and hearing how the assignment has helped you see horizontal and vertical lines better. Thanks so much. Until next time. So I'm using this example for the assignment in the parallel lines chapter. So Roberto wants us to go outside for a couple minutes and look for a horizontal line created by a building. This line could be created, for example, by the way the brick is laid out by the building's window frames. Any horizontal line will do. If you're at the beach, the horizon line automatically becomes your horizontal line. Sorry for that. So I'm using the TV and the shiplap in my basement because we all know what a rectangle looks like, and we all know that the shiplap needs to be parallel. So I've used my iPhone here, and I'm trying to align the top of the TV as straight as I can with the parallel line of my camera and the shiplap. I'm also trying to use the vertical line of the TV and align it to the left side of my frame, so that when you look at the picture, the parallel lines are straight and the rectangles are rectangle. I did this to almost good effect. It wasn't quite perfect, but what he wants us to do is he wants us to get out there and practice lining up horizontal lines and vertical lines with the edge of our viewfinder. It seems simple, but it's one of the biggest things that I see when people post, that posts are not straight up and down, horizons are tilted. So start to be aware of that, and this is a great way to practice in camera. And if you have a level in your camera, even better. I have a level in my new camera, and it saved my life because I always shoot crooked and I always have to go adjust everything.